Hello. Hello there. Cheers. Cheers. Tea and crumpets. Tea and crumpets with Daughter of Change pendant recipient, Jennifer McGee. Jennifer is a cool girl, and she's a Daughter of Change. She's a Daughter of Change pendant recipient. So, hey, Days Jewelers, thanks for partnering with us on the pendants. And Jen is a really interesting Daughter of Change. Jen is an educator for 32 years. Is that correct? Since she was 10?
Yeah, exactly right.
And she also Maine Elementary School Principal of the Year.
Yeah.
2017.
17, yes, 2017.
Right? Like, but not just everybody is the Maine Elementary Principal School of the Year. As a matter of fact, there's only one year, right?
One per year.
One per year. And also, Jen, you want me to say Jen or Jenny?
Yeah, anything, okay. Whatever feels right.
Jay,
called all kinds of
Jay, Jen is also an author, and she wrote a phenomenal book for young adults.
Yes. Move
Over, Judy Bloom. Jen McGee's in town. Just saying, Judy. And by the way, Judy, you just got a plug, so I'll give you my bank account name later. So anyway, Jen wrote a great book for young adults called 9 Minutes and Counting. It's about overcoming tragedy and trauma.
Tragedy, grief, guilt, all of those things.
I couldn't put it down. And I said to Jen, and I'm going to turn over to Jen in a minute, so I'll stop talking. I want Jen to talk, because this is about Jen, not me. But I just have to say, I read all the time. I'm a voracious reader. And I picked up this book, and I thought, well, it's going to be good. But I said to Jen, I loved it. I couldn't put it down. Like, I couldn't put it down. And I was sad when it was over. Even though it was like a hopeful, well, I don't know. Anyway, it wasn't that I was sad because of the ending of the book. I was sad that, like, you know, you feel a book's a friend after a while.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's your companion.
I miss it. I miss that book. Oh, my God, it's going to be a movie.
Yeah.
Stephen King? Anybody knows Tabitha? Tabitha, I know there's probably somebody on my Facebook that knows Tabitha and Stephen King. Listen, you need to help this Maine woman, this Daughter of Change. You are going to love this book, okay? So I'm just saying, if you're out there, right here, we'll let you know how to get it. Your agent can call, or her agent. We'll just give you her phone number. She'll take the call, right?
Better yet, since I don't have an agent.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you may after this.
Right.
Okay. Maybe the king. So anyway, with that being said, I want to toss it over to Jen, and Jen's going to give you a little bit of fill in the blanks of the details of who she is and why she's doing what she's doing and why she loves it and all of that.
Okay. Well,
and then we'll talk about the book.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Marie.
Okay, that's Susie. Lori, if you're watching, that's Susie. Okay.
So, like Marie said, I've been an educator in Maine for 32 years, and I began as a special education teacher, and then I was a middle school English teacher, and then the last, 18 years now, I've been a principal. And so in that kind of course, that journey, naturally, I saw a lot of children go through a lot of really difficult things.
Sure, yeah.
In the meantime, myself, I went through some personal loss and some real incredible challenges. And so in this past year, when I was named Principal of the Year, I said, this is kind of an opportunity for me, because I've been kind of had a different platform this year than I've ever been afforded before. And so this was really a time I felt like I could really write this book and tell a story. And hopefully, my hope through writing 9 Minutes and Counting was taking a painful journey of my own and translating it into a book that children would be able to read. I really intentionally created a format that I felt like anyone could pick up and read, even people who aren't necessarily readers, in that the chapters are short and hopefully gripping enough to make them keep going and feel success in their reading, and hopefully along the way enlighten them with a pathway to recover from difficult situations, from trauma. I think, you know, in my own world, when I was going through a really difficult time, there was one point in time when it was really even hard for me to get out of bed, and it was hard for me to put one foot in front of the other. And I remember my husband saying to me, he said, you know, Jen, after my mother lost her mother, she was never really the same person after that.
Yeah.
And she was never present for us
Yeah.
because she was so mired in her own grief. And that really spoke to me and challenged me to get my spirit back.
To get your spirit back.
And so in writing the book, 9 Minutes and Counting, it gave me an opportunity to really reflect back on one of the most difficult times in my life and think about all those hands of, I call them angels' hands.
Yes, yeah, they refer to that in the book. Yeah.
And it could be, you know, through a therapist, it can be through religion or prayer, it can be through friendship or groups or people extending themselves in whatever way. And so I wanted to capture that when I wrote the book, so that a child, regardless, and I made the tragedy and the mistake that the main character made very dramatic.
Yes.
And I did that really on purpose because I didn't want someone to read it and say, oh, but mine was so much worse.
Was so much worse. So you took it to the really, probably one of the worst things you could think of perhaps happening to a child, anybody, but particularly to a young girl,
right,
or a young child, and that way everybody will identify all the way through.
Right. I wanted it to be relatable regardless, and you know, sorrow and grief is, you know, something that is really difficult to get over. But the emotion of guilt
it's awful.
It can be a backpack full of bricks that you carry through life.
Girl.
Yeah, exactly.
I was brought up to feel guilty.
Right, exactly right. Exactly right.
And this is like, so not to make light, because
no,
this is so
absolutely.
much worse, but guilt is horrible.
It's a really difficult thing to get over. And so I thought if I could create not a blueprint, because some things speak to some people and not others, and so, but I wanted to try to think about along my pathway, what were all the things that got me to feel like myself again?
Right. So can we just do a little recap about what the book's about without giving the whole thing away? But so I'm going to start and then
absolutely.
So basically, it's about a young girl, Lizzie, who's 12, and she. How would you? We don't want to give everything away.
Okay, so no, you don't want to give it away. But she's a 12-year-old girl who's been temporarily charged with the care of her little brother, and you know, I won't tell everything that happens, but the result of what happens when she makes a mistake, and that mistake takes the place within 9 minutes. Yeah. And the result of that catapults her family into an entirely different place. And as often happens, and as an educator I've seen happen many times, is when there's a family tragedy, the parents oftentimes are so mired in their own grief that their other children, they're not able to help pull their other children out of their own grief, because they're coping with something. They're just trying to
get through
unthinkable.
The day-to-day.
Exactly right.
They're just trying to remember to breathe.
Yeah, and so children are often left to their own devices to try to figure things out, and they watch their parents go through incredibly difficult times in it, and sometimes their parents are transformed into someone almost unfamiliar to them because their parents are so wrapped in their own grief. And so this is what happens to Lizzie's family, is the result of her mistake throws the parents into a tailspin, and so she's left to try to figure things out on her own. But along the way, as often can happen, and this was another point that I really wanted to make in the book, is because educators are often important people, kind of parents in the absence of parents when they're at school.
Almost first responders. They're
exactly
that.
Right. Yeah. And if you have an intuitive teacher or an intuitive guidance counselor, they're able to be the ones that help pull that child along the way. And so that was the other unintended consequence kind of writing this book, is when teachers have read it, they're reminded of the fact that they can be, like you said, first responder as a child is experiencing something that maybe they're the only ones outside of the family that are aware of. And so how they put their hand out to a child can be a true difference maker.
It was incredible, the different people that you built along the way in the book. Oh, Lori's here. Hey, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Laura's here. Susie's over there. She won't come on camera.
Yeah.
She said hi back
Susie wrecked the set in the back.
Yeah, Susie was rocking. She's cautious. But I loved how you had, you know, the various characters along the way that she encounters that help her while her parents are trying to help herself. And in a roundabout way, she ends up helping her parents.
Yeah.
Like you have also that piece that also happens in families when something happens, is sometimes the child becomes more of a parent to the parent. You have a role reversal, right? And I mean, luckily she had a pretty cool father.
Yeah.
That was pretty understanding of what the mom was going through.
Right.
Because you can see where divorce can happen in a lot of cases, right?
Right.
So,
absolutely. I mean, and parents are truly at risk for divorce when they go through something really traumatic.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a great point. Like you said, the parents oftentimes are alone, but the child is surrounded by a village, which oftentimes is the school community.
Yeah.
So they're surrounded by a village, and there can be some, you know, instruction that gets brought home from school to the parents saying, you know, I'm in this grief group. And this grief group is really helping me. Maybe there's a group out there
for you.
Right.
The other thing that was really interesting to me in this was that, and you know, it was at the middle school level, but you know, this happens, I think, with adults too, is when something happens to someone, people don't know how to respond to them, so they sometimes move away, right? So like her best friend, right?
Yeah.
So
even her,
so and we all do this, you know, when somebody has tragedy, like they lose somebody they love, or and you don't know what you're supposed to say, so you either don't say anything at all or you avoid it, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that, you know, maybe people need to talk about it, or at least to have you not shy away, like as a friend or a support person, not to, it's like the tragedy, she was saying, like, is the tragedy catching?
Is it contagious?
Is it a disease? She called it the tragedy disease, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, or you called it tragedy.
Yeah,
she was
I think, you know, that's the other thing that has been a common message when people, like, there are people, like, I'm the principal of an elementary school, and there's 58 employees in the school. And there were several employees that I didn't know had experienced incredible tragedies within their home. And they came to me afterwards and said, you know, that was the thing that was one of the hardest things, is I've gone through the most difficult thing of my life, and no one acknowledged it. So they're walking around with this darkness and this despair, and no one's acknowledging it.
Because they probably because they don't know what to say, right? Not because they're mean, they feel awkward, right?
Or people feel like they don't want to remind someone of it. They feel like they don't want to
because we're getting worried.
They don't want to remind them of it if they're having a good day. But like people said to me, it's with me all the time.
Right.
It's with me all the time, so you're not going to remind me of it.
Exactly.
I'm carrying this with me.
And they want maybe somebody to reach out, even if it's just to say I'm there, right?
Right.
Because everybody is probably at different points. They may or may not want to talk about it, or they may be ready to talk about it, but maybe just knowing that somebody, as you said, the acknowledgement of it, right?
Yeah.
And they're not, like, you know, making them feel almost like a pariah.
Yeah.
Without intending
Exactly.
to, right?
Just as simple as, I'm so glad to see you.
Yeah.
I know things are hard right now. You know, just that simplicity.
Yeah.
But acknowledging it for sure. And, you know, the other thing was, and I talked to several people since writing the book, and they said it's really real that children, especially middle school children, don't want to feel different no matter what.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
And so they're almost embarrassed by their tragedy. It's embarrassing to them because it's something different.
Because they're very easily embarrassed by anything that makes them stand out.
Exactly right. Yeah. So there's that kind of emotion. And so people that had experienced this but are now adults that read it, it brought that back.
It brought that back to them.
Forgotten how hard that part was. And so.
Yeah, and you know what I loved about the book too is that whether you yourself have experienced something like that, you know, we all know after a certain point in our lives somebody that has, right? I mean, like we're not getting out of this unscathed. So,
exactly.
It was so relatable. Like for me to read that, I could relate to it from a different perspective, and it actually made me think about how do I deal with people who've been in that situation, you know, and there were so many really, I mean, there were tips in there to me. It seemed like if I were dealing with a child, if I were an educator, a coach, you know, dealing with kids, or just dealing with a friend, like I took away stuff that I would know to do. Like I loved when she and the teacher shared the journal back and forth.
Yeah, and you know,
that was so effective. I mean, I was like, oh, that is so cool. Like somebody needs to read that. You know that. I'm telling you, you all read this. Everybody needs to read this book.
Yes, you do need to.
Now, hi everybody. Oh, Lorraine's on. And Rhoda and Nanette and Lee. And of course, we said Lori Lou's there. Lori Lee's.
Good to see them.
Lori is responsible.
People from Atwood are on. It's good to see people from my school.
Bruckner.
Yeah,
Lori Bruckner connected this daughter of change.
That's right. Thank you,
Kudos to Lori. Lori's been a huge supporter of Daughters of Change.
It's awesome.
Thanks,
Lori. That's awesome.
So anyway,
that piece about the journal actually came from when I was an English teacher.
Okay.
There was a little girl that was in my classroom, and she was 8th grade English, and we did reader response journals, so the kids would read, and then they would respond in the journal. And she had leukemia, and so at that point, she was going through such a difficult time. I remember taking her out in the hall and just saying, you know, I bet reading's really hard for you right now. When you go through anything like that, your mind is completely taken away. I said, if reading's an escape for you, let's do this. If it's not right now, how about we just write back and forth about how things are going for you? Wow. And so that entire school year, when she was going through her chemotherapy treatments, that's what our response
was. Oh, wow. I love that.
Yeah, and nobody knew that because she put her response journal in with everyone else.
So she didn't have to feel different.
She didn't have to feel different.
Talking about at that age.
But it's that acknowledgement of something incredibly different is going on with someone. Yeah. So.
See, like all the teachers need to be like,
well, I mean, I work with incredible teachers, and so that was a true inspiration for me. All along the way, I tried to pick out things that I knew that my teachers are doing for children every day. Yeah. But it's an opportunity. Being an educator is such an opportunity, and you have in every interaction an opportunity to enhance a moment or diminish a moment, and so. Finding a way to lift people up.
Uplifters, Daughters of Change are uplifters, right? Healers in their own way, because you're uplifting, you're giving people faith, you're giving them hope, you're giving them confidence, you're showing them that it's possible for people to make change, to make change in the world, and each in their own way. It doesn't have to be, it's not just the Malalas and the Oprahs who are all, cool, wonderful people, but they didn't start as the Nobel Peace, Malala didn't start as a Nobel Peace Prize winner. She had to get there, right? So and not that being a daughter of change means they have to be that, but it's just like, it's everyday people that are doing incredible things, right? So I was blown away by this book. Like, I can't even, I don't care if you're a young adult or not, you read it.
And I think, the thing is like, Susie was talking about losing her brother in a car accident, and the fact that, her dad read the book as well. And it's an emotional journey. And yet, in a way, any story like that's a love story. Yeah. Because when you love deeply, which is the greatest gift that we have, loss is inevitable.
That's right.
And so it's like you said, no one's getting out of this without loss, without grief. Right. But finding ways and finding tools to help you get through that. Right. To help you get through that process, that's enormous, because you have to maintain your spirit in the face of great agony, in the face of pain. And so, when I was thinking about the audience for this book, I was thinking, children that are going through this with parents who aren't able to help them, maybe they would be able to say, okay, what about this mindfulness, this breathing? Atwood, people from Atwood are on there. The thing is, Pune Weatherby taught us all, it's one of our amazing teachers, about mindful breathing. So all of our children in school breathe in, and they say,
loved that.
Blue skies in. And they pull in their positivity, and we say gray skies out. And we start all of our town meetings that way. But it's a tool, and we always say at the town meetings, what are other times that you can use this? And the children raise their hand and say, when we're sad, when we're mad, when we're frustrated.
It's a great thing to teach somebody. So one of the things that stuck with me, I told you when you first came in, is that the stat and the 47% of the time, we're thinking about the future or the past. Right. We're not in the moment, right?
Exactly.
And so that's where the mindfulness came in. Right. What was you said, like, if you can hear, like, the noises around you,
Yeah.
the birds in the trees, the motors going by, whatever that is,
that is.
then you know you're in the moment. And then
Yeah.
if you can pull yourself back there and then do the breathing, right, the mindfulness,
Exactly.
that, we can all
You're right.
take that tip, right? I mean,
Exactly.
we're all doing that. So that's,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's our
That
role
was-
right now. Is
There were
being present. Yeah.
these great, like,
I'm glad that it
to
spoke
these-
to you. It makes
oh,
it all
it was-
worthwhile when I hear
it
that
was
it spoke to
such a
someone.
great book. I don't mean to sound surprised. I mean, I thought it was going to be good, but I didn't expect to, like, this is like one of the best books I've read in like a while.
Oh, that's nice.
Really
to hear.
good.
It's really
Good.
Nice to
And,
hear.
and yes, I probably, as Lori can attest, and also Lee, if she's still on there, I am sometimes still an adolescent, but I mean, it spoke to me as an adult,
Right.
So I just thought it was so well done.
Oh, thank you very much.
And so when your goal, I mean, we've talked about that a little bit, but
Yeah.
so I want to come back. We're at about 20 minutes. We're doing well, so we're going to keep this going for about another 5, if everybody's cool with that. So one of the things that's always amazing to me is that I'm trying to actually point out here with Daughters of Change is, Michaela's saying hi, Jen.
Hello.
And Derek.
There they are.
Yeah,
Hello.
Rhoda, I just want to make sure we're reaching out to everybody. Hey, everybody, thank you all so much for being
Thanks
here.
for tuning in. Lorraine saying she likes my shirt.
Yeah,
It's a hand-me-down.
Lorraine and Lori, we can't get Susie to walk around in front of her, but we'll get her later. So there was something in you that got you to take the step.
Right.
To do something. So you had a goal. So first let's talk about when you wrote this book.
Right.
You saw contrast. You saw something that you felt you could help or change.
Right.
So you said, I am going to write this book because I want to accomplish what? What would you say was your just...
Well, there was a selfish purpose as well.
Okay.
And like I say in the book, it was a journey of healing for myself.
Okay.
I was going back to a time that was really difficult for me, and writing was very therapeutic for me.
So
it really helped. It was very cathartic for me.
Yeah.
And it was really, it made me feel a lot of hope remembering all of the, prayers that people sent me, all of the tools that people shared with me, friendships that helped me along the way. So getting that down on
was
paper
good for you personally.
through the main character, Lizzie, was a real avenue for me to heal. So that was one of the purposes. And then the other purpose, like I said, was to get something in children's hands that I felt like they could get through, because I know not everybody's a reader. And so getting something in children's hands that I felt like they would read and finish. That would give them tools that would make them believe that things will be better. And the sky is blue, and I'm seeing that the sky is blue again.
I love
and
that.
recognizing that. So that was really important to me. And that target audience of 9 to 15-year-old girls is, it's so relatable to me. I care deeply about all children. It's a tough age. And so, those daughters that we care about in the world, I wanted to figure out a way and a platform that would give them those tools. That was motivating.
That was
for me
motivating
to keep going.
for you. So you were helping to heal others while you were healing yourself.
Absolutely.
So isn't that, there's something to be said for that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it was, people work in different ways. I say artists work in different ways. Some people deliberately every day will continue to write. I did it in bursts. I have to do everything based on school vacations, basically. So during those vacations, my husband will say, I never looked up. I was on the computer the whole time. I just wrote and wrote and wrote, and then I would get from February vacation to April vacation, and I would take it out again. And then, summer vacation, I went to my girlfriend's and had a writer's retreat. Lorraine's
nice.
On the lake.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Yeah, and we wrote and wrote and
I've never met Lorraine, but I have a feeling Lorraine
you will like her a lot.
I think Lorraine and I would have some fun. What do you think, Susie? Yes.
I believe so.
Might be dangerous.
Yeah, very.
But so that's people do things in their own way. I think that's the other important thing, that when Daughters of Change, one of the messages to get across to other women and to men is that, there is no set one way to do this. Like even when I started Daughters of Change, people go, what's your business plan? I go, my business plan is I don't have a business plan.
Yeah.
It's like, it's evolving. It's evolving. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that till you guys have to be okay with that. Do you know what I mean? So
I
get
totally
that.
know what you mean.
You
Yeah.
did it in your own way. So if you could, let's see. And oh, by the way, when we're gonna wrap it up in a minute, but if you do have a question or two for Jen, we can field it. But if you could, in a couple of sentences, so somebody else out there sees something that they would, they would like to do something to create some change or whatever that is, but maybe they're feeling like, oh, I can't do that. Any tips or just, advice?
I think that whatever it is that is on your mind, like, be present, like, do it. If there's something you're thinking about doing, do it. Yeah, let's do this. Let's do this thing. Because
like, we didn't stage that either, right?
Yeah,
that was there.
Yeah, let's do this. I think that's what I would say, because if you would have asked me 5 years ago or 10 years ago if I would write a book, for whatever reason at that time it wasn't ready, but the story was within me. It's lived within me for a long time. So, if that's percolating within yourself, do it, because it's so satisfying. And it was funny because
I like that satisfying.
It's so satisfying. And when the book first went out, I remember the first person that came to me. She's a secretary in the business office, and she had lost her brother to a car accident. And she came to me and told me how helpful it was for her.
Right.
I thought, if I don't hear from one other person, the fact that
somebody
my word
said that
touched somebody's life,
yeah,
it was well worth it.
Yeah.
So, anything that we can do, like you said, to lift others up, to give other people tools that are important to get through this thing called life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's worthwhile.
Share that.
Whatever that is. If you have a passion, go for that.
I love that. Oh my God. Lori, thank you again for the introduction to this Daughter of Change. This has been fantastic. Okay, so Lori's asking where you can buy the book, and that's a good question. So Lori, I'm going to put a link on this feed, so that, and when I'll do it also when I share it onto my friends and family page, but I'll have a link. If you can find it on Amazon. If you Google 9 minutes, it's actually it's up in the title. It's actually the number versus spelled out.
Right.
9 minutes and counting. It pops up. You can get it on Amazon for your Kindle. You can get it in, I believe it's a paperback.
Yeah, and Barnes & Noble has a link.
Barnes & Noble has a link.
Yeah.
So Googling it, I got it at Barnes & Noble, Amazon. We'll put some links up there. And okay, so I'm saying this again. We are Maine. We are maniacs. We are this is a Daughter of Change, Mainer. Stephen King, Tabitha King, anybody knows them, seriously, I want to connect them with this lady. So, like, listen, anything's possible. And if you know their phone numbers or email, send it to me, because I'll call them. I will call anybody. I don't care.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you,
Good to
everybody.
have this woman in your corner.
Woo! Thank you.
And,
and when we say, who brought the cool girls?
Yeah.
Well, in this case, Susie brought the cool girl, but Lori brought the cool woman.
Cheers.
Cool girls.
Yeah.
See you later, everybody. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye. I'm coming to the computer to shut it off. Don't be scared.
That's awesome. That was awesome.
Thank you.
That was a lot better for